Hello and welcome to Blow the Whistle, the show that brings you all of the latest sporting news from across the Northwest. I'm Leo Christian.
And I'm Sam Armitage. We're both stepping in for Max and Evie this week. Coming up on today's show, Cup fever swarms Manchester as United are close to Wembley, the latest from the Uni Sports and all the action from the FA Cup fourth round.
And if you guys want to get involved in the conversation, make sure you're following us at blowthewhistle.us on Instagram.
But first, Manchester United are halfway to a first Carabao Cup final in 6 years following a 3-0 first leg win in Nottingham last week.
Our good friend Max Hayes has more.
Yes, thank you very much, Leo and Sam. You joined me in the newsroom ahead of a huge League Cup semi-final second leg between Manchester United versus Nottingham Forest. Now, bearing a miracle, United should be pretty much through to the final with a 3-0 lead on aggregate after a thrashing against Forest at the City Ground last Wednesday night. James, it's a busy day today with deadline day. You cover Man United all the time. Let's look ahead to the League Cup semi-final. I'm sure you're pretty much booking your tickets for Wembley already, do you think?
I mean, if it was for the improved service for Avanti West Coast, it might be, but there currently is the current issue with trains and stuff makes it a bit harder. But yeah, I mean, a lot of United fans are very excited. This is the first time since 2017 that United might be able to win a major trophy. I mean, the last few years when I've been following United properly, I haven't seen them win a single trophy. So I was in Gdansk for the Europa League final, I lost that. I've seen United win an FA Cup semi-final before, but I've never actually seen them win a trophy. And I think over this past season under Ten Hag, we've seen a manager who understands his players, who understands how his side plays, who feel like for once the team were actually very likeable. Under Solskjaer and under Mourinho especially, there was this feeling that the players didn't really care that much. There was a feeling definitely towards the manager of disillusionment because of the style of football, because of the way that things were. Solskjaer tried his hardest. A lot of the fans still think that a lot of the problems weren't his fault, but he didn't win anything, and that's ultimately why he got sacked. Whereas Ten Hag this season, he's coming straight away. Difficult start to the season, obviously, with the defeats to Brentford and Brighton, but he's turned it round massively, and especially with the FA Cup draw yesterday with United getting West Ham, they could be on course to win maybe two trophies this season, and I think it's going to be a really big game if they get to Wembley in terms of, you know, that turning point for United. You know, Arsenal obviously won the FA Cup under Arteta, and now they're top of the table, and there's just moments like that where you think it's a massive sliding doors moment for Manchester United as a football club.
Yeah, because you mentioned there, Jose Mourinho was the last manager where you won something under, was it the 2017 Europa League? So how do kind of Ten Hag and Mourinho compare? Because they're two completely different managers from the last time you've won something.
They are. I think the thing is with Mourinho, it's a lot more short term. I think that the plan was for him to stay there for 3 years and win the league like he did at Chelsea the second time he went there, like he did with Inter Milan, where the squad wasn't as good as the team that he beat in the Barcelona side under Guardiola in that semi-final, but they were able to get results, and that's the thing. And I think the difference was with United when he finished second and when he got those two trophies, he was expecting to be backed in the transfer market, and he wanted Harry Maguire, and United ended up signing him for £30 million more than they would have done the following summer, and he only got Fred that transfer window, and I think that was the problem with Mourinho. He wasn't backed in the transfer market when he should have been, and that's ultimately why it didn't work out in that third season. And with Ten Hag especially, he's gone for a lot more younger players. He's gone for players like Anthony, who not many people necessarily know much about, and he's trying to sign players to develop long term, and I think that's the thing with Ten Hag. It looks like he's going to be there for a while, maybe someone more like a Klopp who's been at Liverpool. You've seen the project develop over a much longer period of time, whereas with Mourinho it was definitely a case of, right, I'm going to be here, I'm going to win the trophy for maybe a couple of seasons and then maybe push on and win a league title, and that didn't happen. And you can see with Mourinho as well, every team that he goes to, he always leaves it in a mess after he leaves, whereas I think with Ten Hag, it's similar to a Guardiola, it's similar to a Klopp, whereby there's a long-term plan in place and a vision.
Yeah, definitely. And as a Forest fan, James, do you think that we could potentially cause a bit of an upset? You know, 4-0 would be I can't even think about it really, because it isn't going to happen really.
Well, I mean, United's record in semi-finals is fairly poor. I mean, the last two seasons under Solskjaer, they played Manchester City and lost twice in the Carabao Cup semi-final, and that went towards the end of his undoing, but I think it would be very unlikely if Forest caused a shock. But having said that, you know, there is that feeling of complacency within United's team, maybe because they're 3-1 up from the first leg. Eriksen's obviously injured, so that's a big worry. And if United put maybe a weakened team out, if you get an early goal, I mean, it's only 2 goals and then you take it to extra time because there's no away goals. So if you get 2 early goals, then anything can happen, and it has happened before in this competition. So anything's possible. It's cup football, but I think it's unlikely. I think, especially as well, if United get an early goal and maybe if they're 1-0 up at half time, I'll be interested to see what Team Forest put out as well, as to whether you focused on the league this season, because, you know, obviously I think staying up for you is the priority rather than getting to a cup final. Yeah,
there's a big clash against Leeds next Sunday. Right, that's all from the newsroom. Back to you guys in the studio. Leo, Sam, don't get too comfy. I'll be back next week.
Thanks, Max. He'll definitely be here next week talking about the aftermath of the second leg.
On to uni sports now, and whilst most teams get back underway for the second half of the season tomorrow night, the women's football first team got started last week.
For more on this, Bella Francis joins us in the studio.
Hello boys, thank you for having me.
Lovely to have you here, delighted to have you on. So, as you were saying, the women's first team got underway last Wednesday, was it?
Yes.
You were obviously there. Talk us through it a little bit.
I was there. They beat Liverpool Hope 3-1, so they remain unbeaten throughout their season. First half, honestly, not too much to write home about. We started really strong, much stronger than Liverpool, breaking through the defence, coming up with opportunities, but we just couldn't find the final finish. And then when we did finally score, it was our number 7, T, they immediately equalised. So we were kind of like all on the side saying, like, we should be winning, but there's just something that's not quite clicking. Half time hits, everyone recoups, whatever, and about 30 lads show up because the game had been postponed. They were now meant to play, but we were like, please, can you let us finish the match? They were like, of course, if we can watch. Cool, we'll let them watch. So it's 30 lads, the entire of the second team watching, and that atmosphere was honestly one of the most enjoyable football games I've been to in a long time. We start and we're playing so well, and the goal we're scoring in is now right next to us. We're going up and down, and then finally, this move, one of the boys said it was the best goal he'd ever seen in person in his life. Our number 70 down the right flank, bit of a shift, moves the defender around, back heels it to our midfielder, Nalia, and she just belts it into the goal. And I swear to God, people were running on the pitch. It was like, for a uni team, like women's football game, which barely anyone ever comes to watch, it was so good. We continued playing really well. One of our defenders, Annie, got man of the match. So even though the goals were great, and we scored a third. Nice. I know, that's how good it was. We scored a third off a corner. But as I was saying, one of our defenders, Annie, got man of the match, just to show like how versatile the team was and how well everyone really played. But yeah, honestly, it was such a good game to watch, and I really enjoyed it, and they did themselves really proud.
Good, very good to hear. Obviously, Salford Uni's women's team look very good going forward. Mm-hmm. They've maintained their unbeaten record, as you said. Another dominant display last week out. What do you think's going forward? What do we look like going forward?
Honestly, we look really good. So you've got our winger T. Honestly, steals the show for me. Like, she should have got man of the match, probably, but got to move it around a bit. You've just got loads of creative players that can really make something happen, and a lot of people that, it's good people pulling tricks and whatever, but they have such an understanding of keeping their heads up. They know where to pass, and they're all such good friends with each other, and I think that really also makes it work. And not just the starting team, but the substitutes that come on, a lot of them bring something to the game, which that's how you've actually got a really good, like, deep squad.
Definitely. Well, you were there because you're a part of the second team?
Yes, I am.
What's the prospect for the second semester for you guys then?
Well, we have a cup game on Sunday, I think, somewhere in Manchester. So we're still in that. League-wise, I think we're middle of the table of our league. We've won a few games, we've drawn a few games. It's definitely for the second team because most of us are freshers. It's about sorting out where people start best, where people play best. And I don't yet think the coaches have really got an established team as such, but we're all really good mates and we get on really well. And the games are, honestly, with the second team, because we're not playing in a uni league, we play adult women. And a lot of the time it's more entertaining. I mean, one week we saw these 5-year-olds running around and we were like, what are you doing here? And they were like, you're playing our mums. And we were like, oh, is it? Yeah, no, genuinely. So, even though the football might be slightly less organised, it's still a great watch and fun to play in, obviously.
Talking about you for the second team, who have you got next game? What's that look like?
I think it's Sunday, Manchester Laces. Don't quote me on that. You can find it out on the University of Salford Women's Football Instagram account.
Nice.
And then after that, I think we've got a fixture about every week. Honestly, I haven't looked ahead to see who we have after that, but I'm sure it's going to be someone enthralling that we will hopefully beat.
Yeah, and how important is it for the university that so many women are getting involved playing football?
It's honestly so important. Last year, there was only one team and they struggled to get people every week. Now we have 2 teams and you've got like a surplus of people. Like, he can't pick everyone every week. And for these women, it's like such a bonding experience being able to play football. And it's also just, football generally, as you guys probably know, is really good socially, physically, and it's also just really fun. So it's definitely important that more women feel comfortable entering that sort of male sphere. And it's through that change of culture that we'll get better players in the national team and in the leagues and etc.
Yeah.
All build up.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate you coming on today.
Back to football's domestic cups now, and it's not just the League Cup that's seen successes for Manchester sides.
That's right, as both Manchester United and Manchester City were successful in their FA Cup 4th round ties against Reading and Arsenal respectively.
For more on this, Daniel Caddick joins us in the studio.
Thank you, Leo and Sam. Well, it's a new week and plenty is stirring. Sean Dyche has been named the man selected in Merseyside. A stormy cloud has begun to form around Anfield and the transfer window is heating up as it concludes today. We begin with the FA Cup, however. Round 4 saw a dramatic weekend that displayed a handful of draws and not all North West clubs making it out of the round. Friday kicked off with the most anticipated game of the weekend as Premier League leaders Arsenal travelled up north to Pep Guardiola's Manchester City. A narrow 1-0 win to the Blues sees the citizens onto the next stage of the competition, but also demonstrates how close this title race may be. Leo, Sam, how close will this title race be? Who will win the league?
I think it's going to go right down to the wire, personally. I think Arsenal have it. I think Arsenal have the legs. I think they've got enough in their systems to go all the way to win it. I think they've got the squad depth over Manchester City. Obviously, just losing João Cancelo today to Bayern Munich, I think that's a huge loss for the Blues. And I think Arsenal, a part of me thinks they want it more. I don't know how much that matters in Premier League football nowadays. Obviously, everyone wants to fight till the end. But watching this Arsenal side play, they've got the fight. They've got the flame in their belly almost. And they want to go all the way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I almost want to agree with Leo. You know, City are losing a few of their key players.
Yes,
Arsenal are kind of just bringing in a few depth options. Jorginho is looking to be joining Arsenal from Chelsea. You know, let's not forget he was the 3rd best player in the world a few years ago. You know, allegedly. But I think when it comes to the second half of the season with Man City, with the quality of depth that they have, I just don't think Arsenal have it. I think it will be close, and I can see City pipping it. I think it will all depend on what the 2 scores are between Arsenal and City when they play each other in the league, really.
Definitely. Well, Jorginho going for 12 million, which is quite cheap for a player like him. Moving onwards, Manchester United comfortably beat Reading after a Casemiro double and a 3-1 finish at Old Trafford. To Merseyside, as Liverpool continue to stumble, it seems, after a late Brighton goal saw them depart out of the competition. Star transfer name Cody Gakpo is yet to impress as questions are asked if Liverpool's board targeted striking power in favour of a fresh midfield. In other news, Sean Dyche has taken charge of Everton after Frank Lampard's dismissal last week. The ex-Burnley boss has signed a 2.5-year deal with the Toffees and will face a steep task of retaining Goodison Park's place as a Premier League ground. Dyche's first game in charge, however, won't be one to settle him into the job, as Everton host Arsenal at the weekend. Will Sean do the job, guys? Will he keep Everton in the Premier League?
Well, I mean, I think it's going to be an interesting one. I think a lot of people are expecting Sean Dyche to kind of just be like this panic, you know, this controlling figure. But when you look at Burnley, you know, like he got sacked because he lost to one of the worst teams in the league in Norwich last year. You know, I think him being in there instead of Marcelo Bielsa, maybe, who was very heavily linked, is probably better for them because their players will play a more Sean Dyche brand of football. You know, they've got a lot of big, strong defenders who, you know, aren't very good at playing out from the back, and then they've probably got one of the best English target men in the Premier League in Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Yes, he hasn't really been striking for them recently, well, probably all season, but maybe Sean Dyche can be the person to come in and galvanise the troops, hopefully. Everton, they definitely need it.
Change it up for them, 100%.
I think they've got the squad depth to work under Sean Dyche. I think they've got, you know, the James Tarkowski, the Calvert-Lewin, the Connor Cody, those critical players who love to play Burnley, Sean Dyche, 4-4-2, proper English football in that aspect. Because Burnley, obviously, as everyone knew, were praised as being a very tough team and a tough team to break down and to penetrate in the final third. So I think Everton have the squad depth, to be able to do that. In terms of their attacking options, I don't think it's there. They obviously lost Richarlison, just lost Anthony Gordon, so I don't know if they'll do it, to be honest. I think they'll go down.
And it's a tough task for them to bring in players, especially with just Sean Dyche coming in and the transfer window basically closing today. Well, plenty of excitement from the FA Cup to come as the draw sees Bristol City and David Moyes' return to Old Trafford as a match football. In women's football, the weekend